What is going on, guys? And welcome back to the process of becoming. My name is Dino, and I don't have Josh today, but I do have a very special guest, my man Louie. And there's so much that we're going to dive into today. But if you guys don't know Louie, today you're going to get to know him, but you're going to get to know just how much of not just an amazing human he is, but the mindset, the will, the power, the struggle that this man's gone through. He is a brother to me, so I'm grateful for this dude. And I mean, I could literally talk to him every single day. The world has a funny way of just putting the right people in your life. We've talked about that on the podcast, but I'm excited because we're going to dive into so much today. Louis' journey, if you guys haven't heard or seen, it is literally just amazing. And I just can't wait, bro. Like I'm excited for this.
Well,
Clearly.
I really appreciate you, brother. It's an honor to be here today. And I'm mostly excited to just chat with you because every time, whether it's a 5 minute phone call or 2 hour phone call, every time we catch up, I always walk out of that conversation a better person. And there's nobody else that I'll be doing this with today or any day, really. So thank
Oh,
you for
man.
having me. I'm very excited and I truly appreciate you, bro. I'm glad you're in my life.
Bro, likewise, dog, and it really is that way. Like me and Louis were just talking about it before we even got on. Just like there's those people in your life that whether it's 10 years or 2 weeks, even if it's 5 or 20 or 30 or an hour, like whatever the amount of time you spent talking to them is, you always pick up like right where you left off. But it's always you leave feeling like you're like, damn man, like I'm grateful to have people like this in my life. And I think there's a lot of people who struggle with that, right? Like, and social media makes it that way too. The world makes it that way where you kind of feel alone sometimes. But all right, before we get into it, guys, if you obviously have any questions, any feedback for us, please leave comments, like, subscribe, do all those things. Because our whole goal is to help people, and that's a big reason why we have Louis on today is because he's going to share a story. But if you're ever wondering, can you do something? Are you capable of it? If you ever feel like you're in a rut or feel like you can't do something, today's story and Louis in general is going to explain why you can, the mind, and just how powerful it is because it really is, man. And as humans, we're incredible in ways that we can't even imagine. And your story is so perfect, bro, because just everything you've gone through, but even outside of your story, if you remove that, just the type of human you are, it's the reason you have done the things you have done. You're a professional hockey player, man. You're technically a world record breaker in probably a lot of ways than people can imagine. But dude, the first thing I want to just kick this off with, and I know you probably get this with like, the interviews and podcasts you do, but it's like share your story, bro. Like how did everything start for you? Tell us about you, and I mean, whatever you want to share to start, bro, like it's open, open floor.
Well, I appreciate you, bro. Well, I was born in France, right out in a little suburb of Paris, and actually, as soon as I was born, I was dying, and that itself, I think, set me up for success. As hard as it was to go through, not that I remember any of it, but I was born at 7 months. My mom was told that she would never have kids because of the health issues she had faced. And I'm a lab baby, so she was gonna have 3 kids, and I was the only one to survive out of three in her stomach. And I was born at 7 months, so right off the bat, I was literally like this big. I could fit in her
Wow.
hand.
Wow.
Um, I was in the hospital for almost 3 months because I couldn't breathe on my own. I was so small and I wasn't supposed to make it. They were really concerned about me having issues with my lungs, and somehow I survived. So my mom, it was so funny. My mom was doing so bad after giving birth to me that they didn't allow her to come see me, but she literally escaped the room so she could
No
see her
way.
child. So funny. She escaped the room multiple occasions to just come see me, and eventually I was okay. And I think, unconsciously, like without even realizing it, I was facing a hardship that was just preparing me for everything else. When the day you're brought on this earth, you're already dealing with a pretty solid challenge, whether you're able to recognize it or not, because you're obviously a newborn. That instills certain values that you cannot receive unless you go through that. And so I survived and had a pretty normal childhood. I mean, my parents separated, and then my mom met my stepdad, who actually saved her life. He's a doctor. And when my mom was 18, she faced really difficult health issues. She was a victim of how do you call it in English when there's a surgery and the doctor makes a mistake, malpractice?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Wow.
so my stepdad actually saved her life. He resuscitated her for 18 hours. And then they
Wow.
always stayed in touch. Every year she would send him a thank you card for Christmas and New Year's and whatnot. And when I was 2 years old and my parents separated, he was also getting a divorce, and they somehow ended up back together. My stepdad, who I call my dad nowadays,
I love
um,
that.
he always showed up for me, always believed in me, and I'm just thankful to have a family that always had the best interest for me, and always pushed. They never pushed me; they encouraged me to follow my dreams, and they played a big role into building that mindset that I have, that anything's possible. Because it wasn't just up to me, but also up to the people that raised me to show me what was possible. And so I had a pretty normal childhood with them. Like any other family, we all went through difficult times and everything. Until I was 6 years old, I came back from school with flu-like symptoms, and I didn't want to go to hockey practice that night. I was feeling tired. Everybody was asking me, "Oh, like what's wrong?" And I didn't really know. I just felt tired. It was all red. And my mom's like, "Louis, do you want to go to practice tonight?" And I was like, "I don't think I can." And immediately she knew something was wrong. I started playing
Wow.
hockey when I was 4, and I wouldn't miss practice for anything, anything. And I stayed home that night, and I started being super itchy everywhere. I remember I was watching some like The Voice on TV with my mom or something,
Great
and I
show.
just stopped. Great show, like
Great
fantastic
show.
show. And my mom's a nurse, so she was kind of freaking out, and she wasn't yelling at me. But she's like, "Louis, like you need to stop itching." I was like, "Mom, I can't. I really can't." She took me to the ER. They didn't find anything. She slept next to me, and then the very next day, I woke up with blisters all over my body, head to
Wow.
toes. So she rushed me to the hospital, and they didn't know what I have for like 3 weeks. So they were doing all these treatments, these surgeries, but it was torture because all that stuff wasn't applicable to what I had because they didn't know
Right.
what it was. So I was dying, and I remember like pretty traumatic moments of like treatments they were giving me and stuff. And
What,
the doctor.
Louis, but I was gonna say, when you say you were dying, how did you feel in that moment? Like, how did you know, like, that was happening?
So I was just the way you feel. First of all, like there's the blessing for me was that I was so young that I didn't know what death meant. So I was able to detach, and that's applicable to any project you want to do. There's a lot of strength in letting go, and if you can master that and detach from the outcome and just focus on the right now and what can I do now, then you set yourself up for success. So not only I had my own feeling of what was happening, I didn't quite understand it because I was so young, but I also had, you know, you feed off people's energy. So like the way my parents were panicking, I knew something was wrong, which I mean, I don't blame them. I had no more skin on my body, second degree burns over 80% of my body. My lungs, my organs were burning. I was burning on the inside out. And then the doctors, like what they were saying, it got so bad, it got to the point where I was airlifted to the burnt unit in Paris. And the blessing was that they knew what I had. The issue was there's no treatment for it.
Wow.
They could only manage the pain. So they were putting me on a ton of drugs and everything. But I mean, my body was raw, completely raw. Every time I would move, I
Damn.
would start gushing blood. My lips were burnt together. My eyes were starting to burn. I was supposed to be blind. I wasn't supposed to be able to walk ever again. And I was supposed to die, which one morning I was awake, but my eyes were closed, and my mom was in the room, and the doctor comes in and he's like, "Ma'am, if he's not doing better tonight, he'll be dead tomorrow morning. Have a good one." And he walks
Damn,
out.
dude. Wow.
So I
Wow.
remember my mom starts crying, and I'm like, "Mom, don't cry. He doesn't get to say what I can or can't do. I'm going to be okay. And one day I will play hockey in North America." That was my ultimate goal.
Damn. Damn, dude.
And when you're dying like this, my body was dead. Like my body was totally dead. And it sounds very cliche to say that, your mind is everything and you control everything that happens to you, but it's true. In that moment, I was exhausted. And I remember telling myself, Louis, you don't have to fight so hard. Maybe you should take just a second to rest and just chill for a minute. You'll pick up that battle in a second, but just relax. In that exact moment, I felt my body become extremely heavy, like anchored to the bed. And then I felt my soul getting completely dragged out of my body, like
Wow.
sucked out of my body. and then I was heading into the sky, and I could see my face in the clouds. It was a pink sky. It was beautiful, and this cloud had my face in it, and I was going up to it, and I became my own face looking down at the world. And I asked myself two questions. It was, why are they so stressed and running around down there, and why are they so sad that I'm up here?
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, it's like a nightmare when you know those nightmares when you fall and like you're just falling in emptiness, and then all of a
Yep.
sudden you wake up, and
It's
that's
like, oh,
exactly what happened. I was like, and I was like,
wow.
I'm gonna be good. It's gonna work out. And then with time, I started doing better. We don't know why, we don't know how. The issue with me is that when they did the testing for the disease, they never found out what caused it because they did the testing too late. It usually starts from an allergic reaction to medication,
Got
but in
it.
my case, I never found out what it was. So to this day, I don't know, which is pretty annoying because you never know what could cause it, and like
Yeah.
it can't come back. It's really rare, but it can, and so it's like, well, I'm just not going to take any medication. So I all I take is Tylenol, which is not very convenient when you play hockey.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, injuries and everything. But yeah, so I started doing better, and then other than a very sensitive skin to the sun, and also like having to build myself back up because when you're a child and you go through that, then you're pretty messed up in the head. So
Right.
I had to build myself back up, see a psychologist, and also the look from other kids. Like you come
Yeah.
back at school and it's like, it's not the flu. They don't know what it is. So they're scared they're going to get it. They kind of see like the outcast and they set you aside, which, whatever. And then at school, too, I remember after this, I would sweat very easily.
Wow.
And in the summertime at school, my teachers wouldn't allow me to go outside for recess because I would start sweating when I was playing, like any other kid would. So they would just like leave me in the classroom by myself where everybody else would go out there and play. So that created even more separation. It's like, is there something wrong with me? Like, why? Like, I'm here. I mean, I didn't do anything. I'm just here. I just survived. And so it was a process, but that's something that strengthened me. I don't look back on it like, oh, it was so hard to deal with. I can't believe
Right.
this happened to me. It was more so like, no, I mean, it's part of the story, and that built me into who I am and being confident with the challenges I face. So, fast forward many years later, then when I was 14, I left North America on my own to play hockey and pursue my dreams. And I started 2 years in Quebec City where I played high school hockey. Then I played junior hockey in Toronto, El Paso, Texas, Boston, 2 years of NCAA D3 college hockey in Boston. Then I transferred to Missouri State for hockey again. And in 2020, when I arrived in Springfield, Missouri at Missouri State University, I really good spot in my life. Like I was very, very happy, but I was dealing with survivor's guilt. I had a hard time at night looking at myself in the mirror when I was brushing my teeth, and I was like, why me? Why did I get to survive the way I did? I mean, I don't know if I'm feeling any different than anybody else because that's all I know. And that's
Right.
something I ask myself pretty often. I'm like, I wonder if I'd never gone through this disease, if as an athlete I would perform and feel any different when I'm training, because I don't know.
Right.
And I'm sure it's not the same, but again, I don't know, and I don't want to fall into that making excuses. I'm different. It's harder for me. Like, no, it's just like how it is. But I'm just curious to know whether or not I'm dealing with something. And I was like, why did I get to survive the way I did with no complications? I was supposed to be blind. I have perfect vision. I just have scars on my face. That's all I'm
That's
left with.
I can't even see them, just so you know. So you're doing something good, bro. You're doing great. Yeah, that's what
And
it is. I'm just
so
kidding.
um, I I was like, why me? Like so many people are left with no answers. I don't even have answers for myself. And also like, I mean, I'm chasing my dreams. I'm traveling the world. I'm doing what I love. And some people can't even walk outside after surviving this. I need to do something. And my hockey team at Missouri State had this little tradition where they would go rollerblade on campus for fun, like the Mighty Ducks.
Got it. That's awesome.
When I arrived, they like kind of had me join them. And then one day I'm just skating and I look at my roommate Garrett, and I'm like, dude, it'd be crazy to skate across the U.S. And he's like, yeah, I'd be sick, but you can't do that. Like, there's no way it's possible. So I didn't say anything. I went home and I could not get this thought on my brain. I'm like, I need to do this, but I need to find a reason. And as human beings, we tend to minimize the things we go through because that's all we know. And it was like, well, Louis, you survived something pretty significant. Like maybe it's time for you to get involved and give hope to people. And immediately everything clicked, and I was like, yeah, well, I'm going to skate across America to raise funds and awareness about this disease that's extremely rare. The year I had it in France was in 2004. I was one of three out of 67 million people to be diagnosed with it. And to have it
Wow.
at the extent I had it was even more rare because it's a higher branch of the disease. It's called toxic epidermal necrolysis. And I was like, yeah, like, it's no brainer. Use what you know how to do best, which is skate, to put light on something that's greater than yourself. And from there, I never looked back. I knew that it was an intimidating project. I had no marketing skills, no business skills, no endurance training skill. I knew nothing. But not once did I let that get in the way. I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to start with this one thing, this one brick. And then I'm going to put a second brick. And then the third one. Next thing you know, fast forward 2, 3 years later, I built a whole house out of bricks. And that's the main thing for me is you need to act on those things. You need to stop waiting for all the answers because you're going to learn along the way either way.
Right.
So you can either put a coin in the machine and get going, or you can wait and try to save up all these coins. But then what do you do with all these coins if you're not putting them into the machine? Like nothing. You
Right.
just have a cool stack of coins, but you're not putting them to use. So not only are you wasting time, but you're holding your potential back and you're also depriving people from being inspired by what you can do and what you can accomplish. Not once did it cross my mind that I could fail. It was never, am I going to be able to do it? It was more like, how am I going to do this?
Mm,
I'm going to do it. Now let's figure out how. And if I'm wrong, then I'll learn along the way. And it was true. I imagined every possible scenario that could happen on this journey of rollerblading from Venice Beach Skate Park to Times Square, New York City. And after the first day, I was like, wow, I'm not even close to what it looks like out there, but it's great because I can learn, I can adjust, and also the preparation I did before allowed me to be in this space now. I get to learn more. I get to feel tired. I get to feel excited because I've done the work that led me here. And I've built that belief that anything's possible and it's true. And you have to analyze and truly go over how capable you are over and over again. I was like, the hardest part wasn't the journey. The hardest part was having building that belief and holding that belief that I can do it because that skate across America, those 45 days, every single mile, I had done it in my head millions of times.
mm.
I would literally go on Google Earth and in class, in college, I would go on Google Earth and every day I would look at a different road and I would like put the street view and I was like, oh, it's going to suck when you go through here. I never even went through these roads I was looking at. But because I had thought about this, it was
Right.
no surprise. And then when something I wasn't prepared for would happen, I had built enough skills and enough tools, and I was surrounded with the right people that would allow me to just overcome that and build the understanding that it's only temporary. Like I'm not a religious person, but there's one saying that I really resonate with is this too shall pass. You're feeling great on your journey, and also when you're so tired physically, you're extremely emotional, so you go like this. I like to, I mean, not that I know what it's like to be pregnant, but I like to keep a pregnant lady, right? She could
Oh,
be
that's
at
funny.
the top of the world and in 15 minutes she's crying and she doesn't know why. Well, that was exactly me. I was like, Louis, you're doing great and that's awesome. Enjoy it, but just be prepared that it's gonna suck very soon. And then just like that, you're you're mad, you're frustrated. But then I would reassure myself and be like, Louis, no matter what, tonight, when comes 10 p.m., you'll be in bed and this will be over. And when you realize
Yep.
that these things are only temporary, you learn to accept the hardships. And then towards the end of the journey, I was actually looking for them. I was looking forward to being in that moment and understanding how I was going to overcome that and truly building that belief of, okay, like this hill that I have to face over there, this mountain I've been skinning up to all day is pretty intimidating. But I also know that once I get to the top, I'm going to be able to see New York City.
That's
I have
awesome.
to go through this. So I can either beat myself and feel overwhelmed and be very negative, or I can be like, well, this one's big, but the one back there was bigger. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna just be upset and just beat ourselves again and again and again, or be like, yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna get to this mountain one step at a time, and next thing you know, you're on top, and you're looking back, you're like, whoa, I did that.
Dude, that's awesome. I love that. I love
So
that so much.
that's pretty much it. Ended up in New York, set the world record for the fastest time across America on inline skates. It was 2,902.41 miles in 45 days, 10 hours, and 44 seconds.
It's incredible.
Which I don't know if I ever told you this story, but I I'm a very loyal person, and I arrived in New York, but I was wearing my rollerblade suit, and I had two skating suits, a rollerblade one and a first form one. My first form one was my favorite, and I had broken the zipper. So I told my team, "Can you guys fix it for me?" So they did. But then when I arrived in New York, I didn't have it. So I waited on the side of the street for 4 hours for them to drive to the hotel, pick up my suit, drive 2 hours back in traffic, give it to me so I could change on the side of the street, and I could arrive in Times Square for the last 5 miles with my first form suit, because what it meant, my friends gave it to me at first form, and you know what first form means to me, and there was no way for me to get there without it. And I was willing to sacrifice 4 hours of that record time, whatever, because that
Wow.
it was just carrying my people with me and what it meant. And it was never just about me. It was about all these people that believed in me and who played a part into helping me build myself and build everything else around it to finish that. And it's my thing. If I'm setting up a table like this, I want all my people to eat at it and get something from it,
I love that.
because there's no point in accomplishing something if you don't get to share with anyone. Because when you get to that finish line, it's very lonely. And in fact, I crossed the finish line. I'm proud, I'm excited, I'm happy. But my first thought isn't like, yeah, I did it. It's more so like, oh shit, what do I do now? What's next? So,
Yeah. What's next?
and that's a very lonely and scary feeling.
Yeah. Especially after you just went literally almost 3,000 miles
Yeah.
across. You know what I mean?
And it's done. Over.
Dude, it's insane. I think that's like, man, athletes talk about that all the time, right? Like Kobe talks about it, where it's, whenever you get to that championship or whatever, even Tim Grover, it's like you get to winning, but it doesn't stop there. You're like back to square one after that,
Mm.
right? And I think a lot of the world has this like view that once you win once, like winning just is easy, or that it's like this thing. Sometimes I think it's harder, right? Because once you accomplish something and then you're like, dude, I'm back to square one. What do I do next? And then for to have to literally repeat the same process in some way, shape, or form, just to go back and do the same, it's mentally tough,
And you
right?
know what it requires. You know what
Yeah,
goes into it. And then I'm still trying to process what I did, because 3,000 miles isn't really like a distance you can quantify. When you travel this long, you're in a car, on an airplane, on a train, on a bus, but you're not on your 2 feet. So for my brain to understand that I went from the mountains to the desert to the big cities to Times Square, it's like, what the hell? Like 3 days ago, I was in the middle of a national park, and now I'm like surrounded with all these screens and these buildings. What does that mean?
right,
And I had to detach and realize that the starting day, or the moment I started this journey and the moment I ended it, didn't matter. I trained for 2 years just thinking about that finish line. But that finish line doesn't matter. Just like in life, you're going to be born and you're going to die. These are inevitable. But what you do in between is what truly matters. And the second you can be in that moment, whether you're preparing your journey, whatever it may be, or you're accomplishing it, it's the building up to that matters, and the people you impact along the way. Because when you do that, get to that finish line, people are going to be excited for 24 hours, 48
right,
hours,
right.
if that, and then they move on to something else. And you cannot seek validation from that, otherwise you'll be miserable. You have to be so aligned with what you did that you really reflect on the process of getting there, and you find your strength and your peace through that. Because if you're waiting for outside validation, it's like anything in life, really, but you can't rely on other people to make you feel alive in terms of what you've accomplished. You have to
1,000%.
do it for you, and then You have to remain aligned all along the way and impact the people and show the way, because I'm just a regular dude who had an idea. I was, still am, broke. I was in college, no funds, no connection,
Right.
nothing. But I had an idea and I was willing to do whatever it took to get there. For a year and a half, I would sleep 2.5 hours at night. It's not healthy, but that's what it took.
Right. Right. You have
Wake
to do
up
what you have to do.
early, go to the gym for 2.5 hours, lift, go to class, then 2 hours of running, then go work, which not supposed to work, but I was working. Sorry, doing construction, and then I was doing 2.5 hours of running, and then swimming, and then I had hockey practice, and then I'd come home, do homework till 2 a.m. and go to bed, and then
Wow.
do it again.
Wow.
And after my first training day, I couldn't swim. I mean, I know how to swim, but I couldn't go one length of the pool without stopping 4 times and panicking. And I remember getting at the end of the pool and I'm on the side and I'm like, is this really what it's going to be like? You get two options right now. Like, you've been talking about skating across the country for a year and a half, and you can throw in the towel now and be like, you know what? Never mind, and never live up to that and live with regrets. Or you can be like, you know what? Went through the pool once. Let's see if I can go through the pool twice.
Right.
In the end, I could swim for 2.5 hours without stopping,
I love that. That's awesome.
because I stopped listening to these voices of being like, you can't and it's too much, because it isn't. You either find a way or you let, the circumstances tell you what you're going to do. And it's all a choice. We always have the choice. And we forget that it's a blessing sometimes, because it requires hard decisions. It requires honesty and uncomfortable moments, uncomfortable conversations. But then again, it's all up to you what you want to do with it. So,
Yeah, I love that because there's things in there where it's like I think about what you're talking about with, even when you finished, the thing that you are always thinking about is not always the finish line. The finish line is like where you're like, oh, I feel great, whatever. But I bet that you think and spend more time thinking about the process of what you had to go through to make that happen,
yeah,
right? Like that was as painful as it was just for that one thing. I bet that was the part that you look back on the most now, right?
it's the stories, it's the people, it's the, like, I watched the documentary, and like, I also remember moments where I would go from, it would be so much easier if I just jumped under a semi truck going 80 miles an hour right next to me, to like 5 minutes later being like, let's go. I'm like invincible. Like, I'm the man. I got this. Like, it's
Right.
easy. But like, knowing that I was able to conquer these thoughts, because they didn't define who I was and what I was doing. They're just here to remind you that what you're doing is hard, and you can crumble under them and allow them to be your truth, like your reality,
Right.
or you choose not to go that route. You accept these thoughts because they're part of like the foundation of building that finish line. But you need to accept that they're there. You can't be in denial that, you know, I didn't, throughout this journey, I was so prepared. I didn't find my physical limit doing this. What was hard for me was that I would skate all day, I would win the day, but then the next morning, I knew that I was about to be on my own for 15 hours on the road. I was about to go through all these thoughts, these emotions. I was about to be in the sun. It was going to be hard. And you have to put your skates on and then put yourself in that uncomfortable situation again
Right.
and again and again. Because what I did the day before didn't matter until I got to New York. I could have gone 44 days and then thrown the towel on the 44th day and be like, you know what? Well, it didn't matter that I skated all these miles before because I didn't see it through. Or I could accept the fact that it was hard, accept all these negative thoughts, and then just choose to act on them and act on the opposite of what they were telling me. But you can't do that unless you're willing to accept them.
1000%.
I would be like, dude, it's hard right now, but you get to feel like this. You've built yourself to get this far into your journey, that you have the privilege to have these thoughts right now standing where you're at. And I was like, whoa. And you also, I had to detach myself from the danger. That's how committed I was to this. Like, when I would get scared on the road, because being standing on the side of the highway is not common, it's not normal. I had to trick my brain and be like, well, the good thing is if I do get hit by a truck right now, he's going to hit me from behind and I won't see it coming and it's not going to hurt. I'm just gonna dive in. And then I was like, wait a minute, that's so true. You're right. It doesn't matter anymore. Like if it's gonna happen, like if that's how I go out and that's my story, then there's worse ways to going out than like, oh well, young hockey player dies by trying to raise money for a disease. Then like, okay, like
Right,
so be it. Let that be my story. And the second I detach, I'm not saying to be unconscious when you do things, but
right.
that's the level of commitment it takes for you to be able to move forward and not get in your own way and accept all the uncontrollables, unfortunately, how bad they are. Like, I mean, and there's a lot of strength in that. And it also show if you're able to do that, it also gives you a lot of confidence into I am aligned with what I'm doing and I wouldn't do it any other way. That itself is a superpower and it means that you're doing the right thing.
Man, dude, there's like this thing too that I think we forget. It's like even as you talk about like disassociating with those things, I almost think it's more of like you were just talking to yourself, right? Where you were like you were just making sure that the thoughts that you're like, I can't have these thoughts because they're not feeding me, and you knew that, right? And now I know a lot of people aren't going to go out and do 45 days of 3,000 miles on skates, right? But like you even said it, man, you were just a regular dude. Now, obviously, you had even so many things more stacked up against you that the fact that you did that is even harder, right? Like if you were a regular dude, they'd probably be like, okay, that makes sense. But like even when you think about all these other things, like you had so much stacked against you and you still did something incredible, right? Like and I love that because it's not like you were just born with this, incredible will or like, this was all easy for you. And I think people like listening, man, they might think like, oh, but Louis, special or whatever. And it's like, dude, everything you just said in your story, you had to overcome battle after battle after
Yeah.
battle after battle to just do what you did. And all it was mindset, right? Like, and I say all it was, but it was the piece. It was like the hard drive. It was the thing that keeps the other things going.
Mm,
And for everyone that's listening, it's like think about that. It's like whether you're a mom, whether you're a dad, whether you're a college, a student, whether you're a professional, like whatever you are, whatever your journey is, and whatever's happening in your brain matters more than you can imagine, right? And dude, because all of us doubt ourselves, right? All of us get into
yeah.
like one of those
Every
spots where
day.
it's like every day, and you have to like constantly talk to yourself and battle those thoughts, but that's where most of the peace and gratefulness comes from, right? Because, like, dude, you have to be grateful for all the things you've gone through to be able to do something like that,
Yeah.
And I think we forget that as humans, man. And, like, I kind of want to touch more on this where it's, where did this all start from for you? Like, obviously, when you were born, there are so many things going on and you have to have this just mindset of like the way you talk to yourself, but like speak on the importance of like how that's actually shaped the person you are today, because I think we discount that, man. Like we
Mm,
discount the power of being able to just switch our own thoughts or look at things from a different perspective,
yeah.
so like I'd love for you to touch on that more.
Yeah. So one thing I want to say first is like a lot of people will come up to me and tell me word for word, Louis, well, what you did is amazing and I could never do what you've done. And I've also never come close to dying. I never faced a really hard disease in my life. I didn't like that adversity you face. I didn't face it, which I'm like, well, good for you. I'm happy for
Yeah,
you. And I
it's
hope you
awesome.
don't.
It's actually a really good thing,
And I hope you don't.
right?
But in your life, I can guarantee you that you've overcome things that I never had to endure. Whether you're a mom of 4 kids and like you're by yourself and you're making it happen, like those challenges are impacting you just as much, if not more, than the hardships I faced because it's your story. I'm not telling you to skate across America, you need to have second-degree burns and you need to be dying. And no, figure out what challenge it is in your life and be on it. Like, dig into that hardship, that thing that really hurt you and still weighs on you. And choose not to let that impact you for the rest of your life. Choose to dig deep into these emotions, these things that were said to you, these events that happened to you, and decide that now you're taking over and you're taking control and you're honoring the pain that you went through by doing what you've always wanted to, because what happens to you does not define you. How you overcome and how you rise does. You can let it
100%.
crumble you, and then you went through it, and now so what? You endured all these things just to sit there and be like, oh, my life is so hard and it sucks. Or you can be like, yeah, I went through that, but like I said, I went through that. I'm past that, and I decided to keep going. And now I'm gonna honor all this pain and all this hardship I went through, and take control of that situation, because not only will that allow you to put it at rest, but also like that's what life's about. Why do we go through everything if it's not to get anything out of it? You need to get that growth. You need to see it through and move forward. So that's the first thing. And then to tie it with that, it really is a choice. The second you, nobody else was going to do it for me. Nobody was going to save me. I mean, obviously the doctor saved me when I was
Right,
baby,
right,
but
right.
nobody was going to, when I had that moment of relaxation, when I was dying, when I was sick, well, nobody was going to fight for me mentally and physically to maybe get back on the ice one day, maybe get out of the hospital room. Nobody was going to do it for me. When I decided to have the idea of skate across the country, nobody was going to go train for it for me. It was just a choice. And then this is why you need to be so honest with yourself about the things that you want to do. And maybe you don't know what you want to do, and you don't have to. A lot of people reach out to me and they're like, Louis, like, it's great what you say about pursuing your goals, but I'm lost and I don't know what these goals are. Well, that's also a great sign, because it means that maybe mentally in your life you haven't operated on certain things that you need to deal with in order to see that vision. You haven't created that environment for your thoughts to be vulnerable enough to be like, hey man, this is what you actually want to do. And it's a blessing that you don't know, because maybe you'd be heading into that not prepared, not on the right, not on the, just like we talked about, putting a journey like this together, you have to break it apart in the smallest detail. Well, that's the same for our lives. Before I could ever build the belief that there's no way I was going to fail this, I had to understand that I wasn't going to fail myself in the first place. I understood that, Louis, there's a lot of unresolved things. You know, you've been, you've always done your best to be the best person for the people around you, but just like anybody else, you were not showing up for certain people, let alone yourself. In many instances, nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. I made mistakes, and I I don't regret them. I'm not proud of them, but I don't regret them, because I had to go through that, and that feeling of like, like why did things happen this way, for
Yep.
me to understand why they were happening and break these patterns and realize, again, this is not who I am. And you have to take responsibility of owning up to your mistakes so that you can move forward, build that strong relationship with yourself, and that's when everything starts to gravitate towards you.
Hmm.
The more vulnerable you are with people, the more they open up to you. The more you do the right thing, even when you don't feel like it, then all of a sudden everything clicks into place. The more you stay disciplined with yourself, and the more you create bigger and bigger goals, because you keep attaining them one at a time, and you're like, whoa, I'm invincible. I can do this.
Hmm.
So it's really about just building yourself from the ground up. And for me, it was journaling. I love to write. I was journaling. Whether I had one sentence to write or 10 pages, I would take that time every day. I would journal. I read the Daily Stoic. I read books. I go on walks. When I go on a walk, it's crazy the amount of thinking I'm able to do,
Yep.
and all these ideas I get and all this motivation I have, knowing that I'm doing something for myself. Because whether you're a mom, whether you're a husband, whether you're a grandparent, whether you're a college student, if you don't show up for yourself first, you cannot show up for anybody else. You can't. You might try to, but you're not gonna impact the people in the way you should be. If anything, you might impact them in the wrong way. And it starts with you. And then once you get yourself figured out and you're on the right path, you're allowing yourself to create opportunities for yourself. And then it just starts clicking, and you build that confidence that cannot be fucked with. Like, there is no way people could sit there and tell me, Louis, you're not even going to make it through one state. I was like, I'll see you in 13 states.
Yeah, I love that.
And you use that as motivation. Like, for me, it's pretty dark, and it's one of those things where a tap on the back feels great. Receiving support feels great, but that doesn't get me out of bed. What gets me out of bed is the people that don't believe in me, and so it's pretty toxic. But what I would do
Right.
is I created on my iPad this little graphic, and I took the face of everyone who never believed in me and said something that impacted me in the wrong way, and what they said, and I put everything on this sheet of paper. It was like this giant sheet of paper, And when I was preparing for my journey, I put it on my bedroom door. So every time I would walk out of my room to get my day started, I would see all these people. Now, I wouldn't sit there and just like look and
Right,
read.
right.
It was there, and I knew that my eyes would see it, and it would send a message to my brain, even without me realizing it, that every time I walk out this door, I'm going to prove these people wrong, and I'm going to prove myself right. And then I would write out my goals on my bathroom mirror and on my desk, so that even if I'm not taking the time to read it, I see it, and then they become your reality. A lot of people are like, you shouldn't fake it until you make it. I'm like, I don't agree with that. I think you have to tell yourself that the impossible is possible up until you don't think any different.
Right.
And it might feel like you're going to lie to yourself, and it might feel like you're faking it, but because you're going to be repeating that over and over to yourself, you won't know any different. And then you're acting on that, and then you feel guilty if you don't live up to your potential. And ultimately you end up in Times Square on your 2 feet, and you're like, well,
I did it.
it was bad. I did it. What can I do now? Like, if I was able to do this now with the knowledge and the experience I got, what's next? How can I accomplish more? How can I change people's lives? And when you do things for the right reasons, with the right intent, with the right purpose, surrounded with the right people, you cannot fail. It's hard to find, but once you find it, you have to cherish that and just go all out. Because when I was on my deathbed, a 6 year old, again, these were thoughts of a 6 year old kid, but it's a pretty shitty feeling being like, oh, I wish I played more with my dog. I wish I enjoyed hockey practice more. I wish I spent more time with my friends. I wish I gave my mom even more hugs, and I told my family how much I love them more, because your life can change and will change overnight. And when you're on your deathbed and you have all these regrets, then it's a brutal feeling, and it's something I'll carry with me forever. And I'm so glad I endured that as a child, because it changes your whole perspective on anything. And you shouldn't wait. Do not wait to act on your dreams. Like, it's so cliche, and we're bombarded with that every day on social media. And even me, sometimes I hear it, I'm like, shut up.
Right, right.
But
Here we go again.
it's so true. It's so true. Like, from his perspective as somebody who took a shower thought and turned it into my reality,
Hmm.
I couldn't just wait anymore. And there's no point. And I'm glad I didn't. That's why I get so frustrated when I find myself waiting to act on things nowadays, because it's like, it's exactly what now you're supposed to do, but it's also reassuring because it's a human feeling that we get. I still feel like that. And that's why I'm glad that I feel this, because when I share this story, people can relate to it more. Like, yeah, I did this, but I have the same feeling as you do. I go through the same
100%.
shit. My alarm goes off and I want to hit snooze. I get
Yep.
it. Don't feel like working out today, but I also know that, hey man, like, this is what my goals require. So I feel what you're feeling. And I've been there, and I am there still sometimes.
Dude,
But
I love that so much.
it's a choice. I could sit here and be like, I'm different than you. I'm doing no. Like, I am human. There's days I don't want to do it. There's days where I don't think I can do it. There's days I hold myself back. But also in these moments, I have the ability to recognize that it's just an emotion, and the opposite is true. If I can believe that I can accomplish something, well, why would that be more true than me being able to actually do it? It's not. It's just I decide to see it that way.
Dude, so even what you just said, man, and I love that you actually brought this up because I wanted to ask you, but with everything you accomplished, you said it yourself, you still have moments where you're like, man, I acted on this one shower thought, and now there's like things that people give me, and then I'm like, I'll do it later, and you're like, fuck, I want to hit the snooze. And like people listening, man, I think it's so easy to think like, oh, it's just a continuous, right? Because we all have those moments in our life where we've, done something great, and we constantly like go back to that, and we're like, oh man, I wish it was, I could do that again, or this and that, and it's, we almost expect that level to just stay the same, where it's like, I was able to wake up and go through all those hard things, so it's going to be easy to do that moving forward. But when you have those moments where it's not right, it's a struggle. But the more you do it, the more you get better at it, and it doesn't mean it ever gets easier.
Yeah.
But even when you accomplish big things, it doesn't mean life just gets all of a sudden easier, right? And it's like I think we forget that about ourselves, is
Yeah.
that it's going to be always tough. Like it is always going to be tough. But the more that you keep going, the more that you keep showing up, life is. life will take care of itself is how I like to put it. But even you, man, like even you still struggle with things, and it's normal. We all do.
It's
And
normal.
I think we forget to give ourselves a lot of grace in that. And going back to even when you were talking about your motivation, like, dude, I think it's important to have a little bit of both. You know, sometimes it's that chip on your shoulder, sometimes it's the people in your life, sometimes it's a combination. But there was something that you even talked about with just trusting yourself that I think is the biggest piece. And to trust yourself, it's like the kick all, right? Like it's the one that kicks everything off because
Yeah.
that's also what makes the mind powerful, right? It's like the reason you fake it till you make it is because the more that you think about it and you're like, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, your brain will go to work for you. Something I
100%.
think, and we discount that as humans, right? Because, you know, it just sounds too easy, right? Like, yeah, you're not going to believe that you can do something for maybe 2 months, but if you keep thinking about it, your brain is going to be like, well, maybe we can. There's going to be a point in time where you're like, we can, but how? You know, and your
Yeah.
mind will go to work for you. But if we only do it for one day and then the next day it's back to negative, it's never going to work.
And your mind would only do it if you prove yourself that you're showing up every day despite on how you're feeling.
Correct. That's the trust part. That's the trust
Because
part
for
you're talking
me,
about.
in my training for this journey, I was like, as much as I don't want to go run 13 miles right now after a long day, like I know that the day I'm on my journey and I'm miserable and I don't feel like I'm in shape, I'll look back and I'll know that I took this one day off, and that maybe had I not taken this one day off, or I didn't skip my workout or cut it short, then maybe I wouldn't feel like that. I wanted to eliminate everything that was going to be my fault so that I was able to let go and be like, yeah, just what it is. I can't do anything about that. I just didn't want to feel like, man, had I done this one thing different? Because now my thing is, I want to live, but I want to live without regrets.
Right.
Well, no matter what aspect of my life it is. And that's why I live life to the fullest. I always go for what makes the best story, which is not always great. It's not always smart, but like at the end of the day, I can sit here and be like, you know what? I saw this through. Whether it's with friendships, relationships, journeys, I know that I'm going to explore that up until it's in my face that it worked or that it didn't. So that way I can just put that aside and just move on.
Bro, it sounds so simple though, right? Where it's like,
It is. It does.
you know, but that's the key is when you can remove all the pieces of like, I can't control, right? Because what you're talking about is like controlling what you control. And it's like, if I do this, right? And now again, it's like, whether that's like, man, someone who hasn't gone to the gym in forever, okay, control that piece. You can show up and keep doing it. You're going to get stronger, but you
Mm,
can't control any other piece, you
no,
know?
you
And
can't.
it's, we talked about this a little bit before we even got on, but it's that perfectionist mindset. You know, and I think a lot of us get stuck in that because of social media too, where social
Yeah.
media makes you think you got to be perfect. You got to, you know, like they even see those dudes who, let's say, look completely jacked, ripped to the gills, whatever,
Yeah.
and they think that just happened overnight.
Yeah.
Well, most of that is steroids, you know. Some
And
of
then
it you got
and then
to,
you compare yourself too. I mean, I'm the first one to
yeah,
compare myself and be like, damn.
yep,
But like, why? Why am I comparing myself to something that's not my life? And even if
1,000%.
somebody's accomplishing exactly what you want, like at the end of the day, you have your own story, you have your own environment, you have your own goals, you have, so take it with a grain of salt. And it's so easy to do. I mean, like social media, and I'm the first one to do that. Like you show all the good moments in your life, and it's hard to be vulnerable. I made a reel about my journey a couple of days ago, and the opening photo is just me passed out on my bed. It looks like I'm dead. And I mean, it was the reality. Like as much as like I keep saying, and I do believe that, and I know that to be true, I didn't find my physical limit doing this. I also know that like it was hard. It was really hard. And it's hard sometimes to admit that because you want to inspire people and you want, but it's doing them a disservice only talking about the good moments, because then they feel invincible and they don't realize what they're putting themselves into. In
Thousand
order for
percent.
me to succeed with this, I had to know and understand like you're going to put yourself in situations that never you would have thought you would be in, and that you can't even imagine exist. There's,
1,000%.
you know, you're capable of what you think you're capable of, and then there is so much more. And once you go above what you think you're capable of, you realize like it's actually scary, because you're like, wow, I've lived my whole life holding myself back to the standard of what I think I can do, and that's it. But once you surpass that, I mean, I had these out of body experiences where the last 3 days of the journey, I skated for 3 days without sleeping. I took 2 hour breaks, but like I didn't sleep. I just wanted to finish this. And I would just look down and my legs were moving, but I wasn't in control anymore. I remember looking down and I was like, my legs are moving on their own right now. Like I'm done. I'm tired. Like this isn't me moving. Like it's just my
Yeah.
body doesn't know any different. And it's just, and you're like, wow, it's amazing. I would have thought I was done like 20 hours ago.
Right.
And I have 40 hours to go. But guess what? Like, I mean, you're tired at that point. You can always go one step more, one more step. And our saying for this journey was giving hope one stride at a time.
I love that.
And you get caught up with like, I just did one stride. When I took my first stride out of LA, my first thought was, wow, I've never been this far from New York. But then you accomplish one day, it's like 60 miles of skating. You're like, awesome. I still have like over 3,000 to do. That's awesome. So what's 60 miles or three? And then 2 weeks in, you're like, whoa, I've actually done like over 1,000. Now we're cooking. And once I started, because in the beginning I was holding myself back because of the heat. It was 116 degrees in the desert. Like, no, you can't do that. Like, it's not humanly possible
Right. Right.
to be feeling good in that moment. And then my team and I had a conversation, and they were telling me, Louis, you're not skating enough, which they were right. And then I was also telling them, guys, I'm doing my best, and y'all don't understand what I'm going through out there. So we had this conflict of like, we're both trying to make a point. We both want the same result, but we're not communicating it right. And we're both like just butting heads, butting heads, butting heads. And up until one day, I fell. It was on day 12. I fell. I scraped my whole body. Like my leg was like ground beef. It was disgusting. And I got up and I was mad. And then my buddy Dan was like, like what you're doing is already pretty impressive. Maybe you need a day off. Maybe like you should let go of that record. And like the important thing is for you to get to the finish line. And I looked at him and I was like, you're my friend. And it's the last thing I need you to tell me. But I would never change that conversation because it put such a chip on my shoulder that I got up. And that day I did my record for the longest distance I had ever skated. I skated 94 miles.
Wow.
Then the next morning I woke up and I was like, whoa, I don't feel any different than if I skated 55. That means I can do this. And then my team conversation towards me was more like, Louis, you just did 95. Like you can do at least 70 today. And I was like, oh, you really think so? Like you believe that? And they're like, absolutely. Like we have no doubt. So now the conversation wasn't like this. It was more like, hey, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
We believe you can do this. And you need to also trust yourself and your training. And you need to stop holding yourself back. You've been training for this for how long? Now you're in a position to unleash that and honor like your efforts and like your consistency and your discipline. And the second we start communicating like this, I start skating 70 miles, 75, 85, 100, 150 to these last 3 days where we covered almost like 400 miles.
That's crazy. That is insane.
You let go of the outcome. And then in the beginning, I was always doing the math. Like, oh, well, I skated 60 miles today. So if I want to finish in time, I need to skate this amount of miles every day, repeatedly, repeatedly. And you're just going nowhere.
Mhm.
Instead, I was like, well, I have 15 miles to skate until my next checkpoint. Let's do it. And then we'll see. And then get to the checkpoint. Well, maybe I can only skate 10 or I can skate 20. And then at the end of the day, do I want to keep going 30 miles right now or do I want to save it for tomorrow? And the second I detached from that and I would just won the day is how I was able to win 45 of them and get to Times Square.
I was literally about to ask you, man, do you think, and you answered it, but please dive into this. Like, because early on you were so focused on the distance instead of like, how about I just do is win my day? Do you think that affected the reason you were going, maybe not as hard or not as fast or not covering as many miles as you know you could?
Yeah, because I was like, let's say in the beginning, I was like, I don't want to skate more than 55 because I shouldn't beat myself too early, too quick. So then you get to that 55-mile mark and you're like, I'm done. I'm over. Like, I got to stop now.
Right.
And you freeze. But then it's like, really, if you stop thinking like that and you detach from that 55 miles, you're like, whoa, I have about another 25 miles in me for sure. But because I had ingrained that in my mind that I shouldn't skate more, then the 45 to 55 mile mark, I was like, I was surviving. But then it's like, what are you doing? Like, no, you're not surviving. You're capable of this, but you're just telling yourself otherwise. And you've built your mind to believe that.
Right.
And then I built my mind to believe that I could skate 150 with no break. Like,
That's insane. That's insane.
and that's why it's so cliche, but I just don't want people to have to go through this to understand that. Just like I don't want people, my mission today is to show everyone that their dreams are possible and that they don't need to go through a traumatic situation, a traumatic hardship to realize the value of life and how fragile it is. It always happens to everybody else. It's always somebody else. Oh, yeah, that just happens to other people. Well, guess what? Tomorrow you cross the street, you get run over, and you're in a wheelchair. What do you do? You
Thousand
sit there
percent.
with all the things you wanted to accomplish and you didn't. Now your reality is completely different. And how you're going to handle that is different. Like I told my mom is pretty, my mom is my biggest inspiration. And she's the one who built that mindset for me. And she doesn't even realize it, but I owe everything to her. And my mom, being a mom, is always a little worried. Like, I'm excited for you to have a house, and
Yep.
I'm excited for you to like make a living consistently and save money and build
Right.
your future. Which, again, same. But I also told my mom, like, if you compare my situation and all my friends around me, I can tell you and look at you in the eyes and be like, if I was to go tomorrow, not that I want to, but if I was to go tomorrow, I can go and say, like, you know what? I have lived and I've accomplished everything and anything I have ever wanted, and not 1 second in my life did I not live up to what I wanted to do in my potential. And knowing that is so freeing.
Hmm.
While I'm not where I want to be yet, I
For
also
sure.
know that I need to draw strength from the things I've accomplished. And I mean, it's a blessing to be able to live like that, and it opens a whole new door of possibilities. And what you once thought was not possible for you and was just for others, well, now you also understand that, well, if that person did it, then I can do it too.
Yes.
The most recent
Thousand
example
percent.
I have for this is my I know this guy from social media through like a mutual podcast. His Instagram is Sailing with Phoenix, and I'm sure once I start talking about it, I'm sure recently you've seen some of his content. This guy, a year and a half ago, 2,000 people following him on Instagram, and he quit his 9 to 5 job, emptied his 401k, bought a sailboat, and said, I'm going to go accomplish my dream. I have this rare disease I'm dealing with, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to do that. So I'm going to do it now. And he decided to buy a boat and sail from Oregon to Hawaii and then sail the world. In the past 3 weeks, his Instagram account blew up overnight to 1.6 million people following him.
Wow. Wow.
My
That's
first thought,
incredible.
a human being, I was like, well, what am I doing wrong? But then I was like, no, hold on, breathe. It's so amazing for him because he's very inspiring and I love him and I love what he's doing and what he did because he just arrived in Hawaii yesterday.
That's awesome.
But I'm like, you know what? Instead of being like, what am I doing wrong? I'm like, wait, that's possible. When I
Dude.
see,
Yes.
for me, like James Lawrence, Iron Cowboy, when I
Yep.
saw him do the 50-50-50 and then the 100 one, I was like, yes, he's an amazing athlete, but guess what? Like, he's a human being just like I am. And he's
Yeah.
put himself in the situation to succeed and train and prepare and build that mindset. So if I can do it, why can't I? And the second you stop listening to outside factors and limiting your potential is the moment you open an incredible amount of doors for yourself when you decide to act on them and build that belief.
Man, you said it so perfectly, bro. And I think another piece to that too is the self-limiting factors we have in our own head sometimes. Like the comparison, right? Or like the social media, whatever it is, or even our next door neighbor. It's like, man, your journey is your journey. There's only one Louis, there's only one Dino, there's only one Iron Cowboy, there's only one of whoever's listening, there's only one of you, and your journey
Yeah.
is going to be different, right? Like that's the beauty of life, and that's the key. But what stops us is the external and then sometimes even the internal. And you
Yeah.
got to constantly battle those things.
Yeah. Sure.
The last thing, Louis, before we wrap up, dude, what's the message? And I know you kind of said this a little bit through everything we've talked about, but like, what do you want to leave the people with today? Like, is there a message? Is there something that you're like, Is there, tactics that you would tell people to implement in their life to change it, whether it's one or two or three? Like what, for people that want to change and want to do better in life, regardless of what it is, like what is your message for them?
Yeah. So there's a few things. I think the first one is it starts with you. Instead of brushing off to the side all the unresolved things in your life, find them, run at them, and attack them so aggressively that you feel uncomfortable, that you feel overwhelmed, that you feel sad, that you cry, that you laugh. But just find whatever it is in your life that's, even if you don't think about it every day, might be a limiting factor, whether it's like past relationships that you didn't heal from, past failures, past people like not believing you, whatever it may be. Find them, identify them on a piece of paper, and then break them down as to why it still holds you back and what you need to do to put that to rest.
I love that.
Then find why what you're doing is important and what you want to do. Once you have healed yourself from these things, you'll have a lot more clarity and nothing will be holding you back from truly figuring out what it is that you want to do. And if you can't, work for yourself, do things for yourself, the smallest little things that you know you should be doing better, but that you refuse to do because you're quitting on yourself constantly. And that also won't create the space for you to find what it is that you want to do. Once you do find that goal, break it apart to the smallest detail. I had it broken apart to like what kind of socks I needed to wear in
I
order
love
to
that.
prevent.
Make it real.
Should I go with no socks? Should I go with normal socks? What kind of whatever it was, like what kind of pillow I was sleeping, like find your big goal and then break it into sub parts and then sub part and then to the smallest detail. Find pride into finding details on that, but also in your day-to-day life. Like Jeff taught me, for example, as a hockey player, I'm right-handed, but my top hand controls my stick, my left one. Well, brush your teeth with your left hand because that way you're more agile. Take pride in finding details that are going to allow you to break apart your dream, but also build yourself up. And then anything's possible. I believe that anything is possible. It just requires a lot of honesty,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of work, and be okay with being misunderstood because the day you succeed, people will brag that they were knowing you.
Mm-hmm.
And then my favorite quote of all time, which I carry on my back, I have it tatted on me. I say it all the time, and I think all my friends are tired of hearing it, but it's from the poem Invictus by William Ernest Henley. I am the master of my fate. I'm the captain of my soul. This is just means that you have the choice and you get to decide what it is that you accomplish with your life. And it's not up to anybody else. And the second you truly believe that, you allow yourself to make anything happen. And I hope you win. I hope that your day one is now. I hope your day one is in 6 months from whatever that may be. But I hope you get to that day one and you never look back because otherwise, what's the point of being alive? We're meant to work. We're meant to accomplish things. We're meant to connect. And there's no greater feeling than saying you're going to do something and setting out and accomplishing it. So, yeah, that's all I got.
Bro, my man, I love it. Dude, thank you so much for this, bro. I definitely see another episode, us diving even more things
For
in and,
sure.
having more conversations. Because obviously, dude, I don't think an hour is enough for us to just go through everything, like at all. So
Especially
we're
with
good.
your story and how we can
Uh,
relate to each other through different experiences, man. It's pretty wild.
well, bro, that's why I think we connected so well from the get go. And hey, dude, it's awesome, bro. Like I said, the world has a way of just putting people in your life, and bro, you're one of those people, man. And I'm so grateful for you, dude. And even just like you pulled literally, I'm like, hey, bro, you got time? Just something. You're like, yep, got it. Like
Bro, for sure. I always have time for you. Were you kidding?
likewise, my guy. That's why I love you, bro. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Listen, if you love Louis' story today, you got to go follow him on Instagram. Louis, what's your at? By the
It's
way, what's
at
your Instagram
Louis
handle?
Chaix, LOUISCHAIX on Instagram. You'll find me there. If you have any questions, if you want to reach out, do it. If you want to connect, if you want to hop on a call, my door's always open to help people, whether it's, just to try and figure things out, to work on a project. I love doing that. And also, people don't realize that conversations like these are helping people with their own dreams, allows me to process mine. And so my door is always open. And I believe that y'all do great things. And if I can be a tiny, tiny part of it, then I'm even more excited.
Dude, I'm not surprised. And I was actually going to say that too. I was going to say for anyone listening, if you reach out to Louis, like that is a guy who not only will be there for you, but he will literally help in any way possible. And I'm
I will.
literally
I know what it
you did.
takes to coach.
Yeah, it does. It does. Louis, I appreciate you, bro. Guys, thank you for tuning in. If you guys like the video, please like, subscribe, comment, do all those things, and give us some feedback. But most importantly, go follow Louis, go follow his journey because he's just getting started, guys. I'm telling you,
Oh, yeah,
this
just
isn't
the
even
beginning.
just the beginning. And we'll have you back, Louis. I'd love this, man.
Love you,
All right,
bro.
guys. Peace.
Peace.